Good evening. Welcome to the August 13th, 2024 edition of the Downers Grove Village Council meeting. This is a special meeting as it's our first in our new Village Hall, and our first here is named in memory of Mayor Betty Cheever. Mayor Cheever was not only a long-tenured public servant, but also a trailblazer in Downers Grove, being the first woman to serve as village commissioner and the first woman to serve as mayor. Mayor Cheever advocated for careful listening to what is asked, while recognizing that even when those asks cannot be met, ensuring everyone gets a fair shake is of utmost importance. As we work to continue that tradition, we thank you for taking. Whether you're here in person this evening or watching from home now or later, your participation is much appreciated. We expect all the tech associated with these chambers will work tonight, but if we have a few hiccups along the way, we appreciate your patience. As is our custom and has been for many years, we will begin this meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rosa, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Barnett,
Here.
Commissioner Jose, Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit,
Here.
Commissioner Gilmartin,
Here.
Commissioner Glover,
Here.
Commissioner Tully,
Very glad to be here.
Commissioner.
Welcome all. I neglected to say it at the beginning, over on that counter by the central door there are copies of tonight's agenda if you'd like to follow along there. And there will be stuff throughout the meeting on the monitors. We hope that works for everybody. Item 3 on our agenda tonight are minutes of previous council meetings. Is there a motion?
Mayor, I move to adopt the Village Council meeting minutes from July 16th, 2024 as presented.
Second.
Any comments, questions? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all. Item 4, public comments portion of our meeting. As has been our tradition in the past, this portion of the meeting is for public comments not on items on tonight's agenda. There will be opportunities for public comment as we go through the agenda on those specific items. So if you have something you'd like to comment or let us know about, please come on down to the podium. Let us know what's on your mind.
Good evening, everybody. Been a long time coming for this, so it's great to see that it's finally here. But I just came down real quick tonight. July 29th, Monday, there was a fire at the church, and fire department did a great job. Showed up. A lot of my fireman buddies used to have their joke, amongst them that, we saved another foundation. Well, these guys saved a little foundation, and even covered up some of the furniture and the office stuff. And then there's a Good Shepherd when you walk in, a wood-carved statue from Italy, and they covered that up. So just kudos to them, and all the departments that are around, they did a great job. So thanks.
Thank you. Others with items not on tonight's agenda.
Okay, so even with the longstanding traditions and guidance from Ms. Cheever, as it happens over time, this council has developed a reputation for that decision. You know what they are. Decisions are already made before the meetings occur. Doesn't listen. It doesn't matter anyway. And that council members don't care about what people say. And I will tell you, first, my experience is the council does listen. I will give you that. Absolutely, you listen intently, you take notes. The rest of the ideas about whether it matters or you're guided by what people say is still open. But are pretty much offended when people say that to you, and that's probably that's certainly with reason. But and one case in point, in my opinion, is the 2019 parking study, which 80% of the people said we need more parking downtown in 2019. That the restaurants that at that time needed 480 if they were obligated to comply with parking, and that's before 2 more restaurants have opened up downtown. But and the study itself recognized that people were frustrated with parking and unavailability of parking, and yet nothing particularly at all has been done to alleviate that, and the recommendations are ridiculous. So what I'd like to point out, though, is that the council has an opportunity to improve that reputation, and you can repair it some. The current downtown parking priority action items, as you well know, indicate that some parking spaces may be removed, some parking lots may be taken for creation of outdoor cafe. I would urge you not to do that, and recognize that non-restaurant business owners have told you that they need parking for their customers. Their customers have complained that they can't find parking. Other people have said they don't come downtown anymore, don't use the library anymore because they can't find parking. So you can demonstrate that you do listen, that you can be guided by what your constituents tell you, and that by not expanding sidewalks, not removing parking spaces in downtown, and keeping at least what we have now. So that's what I urge you to do, and you do have a chance to demonstrate that you can learn. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Clorinda Greco, 39-year business owner here in Downers Grove. I know the April deadline or the spring deadline is just an estimate. I would urge you, before you make any really decisions on expanding the sidewalks for our existing restaurants and potential restaurants, to just put the brakes on it. The survey that went out really doesn't give people a chance to say what their issues are with it. When you take the survey, it's like, is this a weakness? Is this a strength? Be like not applicable. This is what we're having a problem with. I've told my clients who are residents here to take the survey, and they're like, well, there really isn't a lot for us to do where to talk about the, the issues. I go, yeah, I had the same thing. I've taken pictures, just as a business owner, of a car parked on the sidewalk, alleyway, not on a curb, but right on the sidewalk on Friday night, because they couldn't find any parking in front of the building. I've shown it to people. It's clearly evidence. 2 police cars went past. I pulled over the one police car. He did come back, but the gentleman didn't get a ticket. They park, and I have cars on the crosswalk on on Curtis and Mokel, because they want to go to the cleaners and drop off cleaning or pick up cleaning. And they do have one spot there, a small spot, but there's nothing convenient, and they've got their bags of clothes or they're picking up their clothes. I have pictures of that. I have pictures of them parking over there because they're going. Giordano's, when they have a semi deliver their food, they cannot go in along by the florist on Main Street by where Capri's Entourage is now. They can't back up their semi on there. So they have to come from Main Street, turn onto Curtis, go past Bart Cheadle, and then take their semi and try and back it in. Can you imagine for a semi truck to back into that area? Well, it takes a while. So now we have another round getting a delivery of Pepsi and beer. So the beer semi goes and parks by the parking garage across from where people are going to try and get into Angelo's parking lot. So now the Pepsi guy doesn't have anywhere to go, so he illegally goes into, which is right across from the post office parking lot, parks his car along all their parking there, and then takes it and wheels it down the sidewalk from where the parking garage is, through Angelo's parking thing into another round. And this is at 10:45 on a Thursday afternoon. So we have 3 that are blocking traffic, and your clients are like, how are we supposed to get in here? What are we supposed to do? Until they figure out how they're going to go around and get their deliveries done, which I understand they have to do that. But there is such a parking issue, and I know you don't see it. So what I decided to do on June 17th was drive around, take pictures and videotape of all these supposed people dining outside. Guess what? It's too hot. They're not dining outside. It's rainy. They're not dining outside. Okay? So at 7:30 at night, Bart Cheadle had no one there the other day. I drove around many times. I have lists and I have pictures if anybody wants to see it. But this, to say that there is not a parking issue, no one's dining outside. There was one free parking space from Burlington to Maple on Main Street, from Curtis to Washington, from Main Street to Washington, all up and down Mogul, past the new Entourage, by the place, one parking space. And yet nobody was dining outside. Guess what? It was rainy, it was drizzly. They're not dining outside. So you want to do all this, and you should see, there should be some kind of survey to say how many hours, because they're not dining during the sunshine, because the sun is blinding them. So I just hope you just put a pause on the brake of making any decision. You need to have an alternative parking situation figured out and built before you do away with any kind of parking. Thank you.
Thank you. Others, subjects not on tonight's agenda? Okay, we will continue then. Item 5 is a consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Mayor, I move to adopt the consent agenda as presented.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you. Item 6 is our first reading. First reading portion of the meeting is the portion of the meeting where we discuss items that we do not plan to take action on tonight. Sometimes these are, in fact, first-time readings. Sometimes they are continuations. But these are items on which we do not plan to take formal action this evening. Dave?
Thank you, Mayor. There are 3 reading agenda. The first one is the resolution granting historic landmark designation for a property in the 4800 block of Northcott. Here to present background information on this item is our Community Development Director, Stan Popovich.
Thank you, Manager Fielman. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. As Manager Fielman noted, this is a historic landmark application for 4812 Northcott. The property is sort of just a little bit northwest of downtown. The house in particular is the 4th south of Prairie Avenue on the west side of the street. As you can see by this picture, this is a English country revival style home. So it's a very unique style home. Some of the key features are a chimney on the one side, and it's asymmetrical, multi-gabled roof, a clipped main gable, a dove coat, and asymmetrical features. So that's what we see an example of an English country revival style home. The home was built in 1942, around that time period, so it does meet the criteria for those 2 items there with the age and the unique style of an English country revival. And if approved, this would be our 32nd house that would be landmarked. So I'm happy to answer any questions for the mayor and the council tonight. We also have the property owners are here as well.
Thank you, Stan. Questions about this petition?
Hi, Ken Werner. I just want to speak in favor of the landmark application in question. I very much appreciate and Dan brought their house potentially into the fold of Downers Grove landmarks. I think it will make a very nice addition to the list of landmarks that we have. It's a very distinctively styled house, but also characteristic. I think there are a number of similarly styled brick, English country or English cottage style houses from about that in Downers Grove. So it's also representative of something that characterizes Downers Grove. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments? Any council comments, questions? Martin?
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, also want to thank the petitioners, Dan and Sharon, for bringing this forward. I know you both of historic preservation in town, so thank you for leading by example. That's greatly appreciated. It always warms my heart when something that we made a possibility a number of years ago has turned into a reality, and we see more and more of it. We now have over 30 different properties that are landmarked and protected in the village of Downers Grove for future generations, and we continue to see more take advantage of the mechanism that the village put in place a number of years ago and then improved that allowed people to do this. By any measure, it's been an unmitigated success, and that's because of residents like the petitioners tonight who have believed in the cause and moved forward with putting their homes where their mouths are and their beliefs are in terms of this. So we thank you for that, and future generations thank you as well. The criteria, as Stan laid it out, I think this application clearly meets the criteria for landmarking under our ordinance. I plan to fully support it. Thank you again, and I was going to add a personal note that I've had the pleasure of being at 4812 Northcott. It is a lovely home. It'll be a fine addition to the register, and look forward to it becoming number 32. And thank you, Stan, for including the numbers in every presentation, because you know I'm going to ask.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Others? Mike?
Sure. I just also would like to thank Dan and Sharon. This is terrific. You know, this whole process also is a great learning moment for all of us, right? So, you know, there's the obvious benefit to knowing that this home might still, you know, likely will still be here 100 years from now, right? Like unlikely to be replaced, mansion sort of thing, and so preserving for the future some of our great past, and the land was also previously owned by the state of Marshall Field too. So, you know, I think about education here. That it's a moment for us all to maybe better appreciate what we have here, because not everybody has what we have, and a lot of what we. And definitely worth preserving. So fun to learn a little bit about architecture too. You know, the English country revival and what that's all about. And so so it's a great tool, and I hope, you know, maybe in a few more years we're at number 62 or something. So the more that do this, and the more that see that this is not something that's looking over you, but actually has great benefit. And chances are, if you own a home like this, the reason you bought it is because you love that home, and others would too. And there's even an affordability aspect to this, right? Because this house is not going to be a house that's going to be torn down and be made into a $1.5 million. This is, you know, this has many components that's beneficial to our town. So I thank you for bringing this forward, and hope it's an inspiration to others. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Mike. Anyone else? Just, I'm not going to repeat what anybody had to say. Well, do we have, I apologize for not remembering the last one, but are we, you know, rolling headline on our website?
Absolutely, we can get the word out about it. Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, so we are going through in the Inside DG quarterly newsletter, and we keep having the homes that have been landmarked. There's a little feature on them every quarter.
Yep.
I know we're getting pretty close to coming to number 32.
It's just, as Mike said, opportunity to broadcast for people, hey,
Yep.
look at this, and here's roughly how, and here's where to go through the website, and how we'll help you.
For sure.
Awesome. Anything else? Thank you, Stan.
And
Thank
while
you.
Stan is there, he can remain there because he will also be presenting the next item, which is the follow-up to a council member new business item regarding combining the Plan Commission and the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Thank you, Manager Fielman. Good evening, Mayor and Council again. As multiple municipal code amendments to create a planning and zoning commission, combining the Plan Commission and the Zoning Board of Appeals, and then also within Chapter 28 to amend the special use approval standards as well. So this ordinance also covers a variety of sections in the municipal code, and this is all based on the July 9th meeting where council directed staff to pursue this. This would be into one board or commission. In this case, it's the Planning and Zoning Commission. As you can see on the screen, the Plan Commission meets pretty regularly, where the Zoning Board of Appeals, I think, has met 8 times over the past 5 years or so. So we believe that the combination of these two boards could provide some more efficiency and effectiveness for petitioners and for the public as well. And then this, again, is an amendment to various municipal code sections. It shows the items that would come before this new commission here. So the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are items that are typically purviews of the Plan Commission review process. So zoning text amendment, zoning map amendment. So if somebody wants to rezone from an R1 to an R4, PUDs, which we're all familiar with any variations or deviations. PUD site plan is something that reviews and approves based on approvals from the council to make sure that the site plans comply with what the council has approved. And then finally, special uses with variations has typically gone through the Plan Commission process and come to Village Council for approval. So then ultimately, Village Council will be the decision maker on that. Those items would not change in terms of processes. What would change is some of the appeals processes because of somewhat of an appeal board. So the first one on the list is the zoning compliance determination. So that's really staff that determines that the petition or the permit or the building itself meets all the zoning ordinance requirements. So that's something that as a staff we review, make sure it meets it. If there's conflict with what people think we've determined or not, that then goes to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Certificate of occupancy, so this is one where the village staff usually issues those. So if someone's moving into a property, they have to get a certificate of occupancy. We confirm that the zoning and their use is allowed in that zoning district. Again, if there's anything with an appeal in terms of how we are interpreting the ordinances, that would go to the new Planning and Zoning Commission. The next one is the administrative adjustments. These are de minimis. So we typically see these things with zoning issues where maybe a garage is required to be 5 feet away from a property line, and when they poured it, it's 4 feet 10 inches. So really de minimis type things. It also allows us to reduce some setbacks up to 2 feet maximum, and then to reduce driveway width. So we find that a lot of the older homes, the driveway is really tight to the property lines. So it gives staff a little bit of an opportunity on these de minimis things not to have to come before you or any other board. And then again, the appeal process will be through the new board and commission. The next item on the list is zoning exceptions. So these are requests, reliefs that specify a minor modification to zoning regulations, but by their nature, we really can't use the variation regulations and procedures. So this, typically what we've seen since it's been in place now is this is so if you have a non-conforming house with, let's say, a 3-foot setback and it's a 5-foot setback, through this process, you can extend your second floor if it's a 1-story building up second floor and keep the same setback, or you can expand it 15% of that wall length vertically, if that's correct. Yeah, or horizontally. Side to side, horizontally, yes. So sorry, get a little bit messed up here on horizontal, vertical. But yeah, small things that is really not any practical hardship with the land, it's just the way the house is built. So that's typically what we see with these exceptions. There's also non-conforming uses and abandonment and reestablishment of non-conforming uses. So again, this would go to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and they would ultimately be the decision maker. The Zoning Board of Appeals was the decision maker before this, so it would just go to the new board here. And those are relief to the property owner from the strict compliance of the zoning ordinance. It really helps alleviate some undue hardship that the property might be caused. So I like to use the example as if you have a hilly a hilly property and you're trying to put a shed on your property, but you can't put it anywhere except for the one flat spot that's next to your neighbor. So it's sort of like that, where there's something physically wrong or physically unique with the land where you can't comply with the there. So that has different standards that have to be met. Again, this was a decision by the Zoning Board of Appeals that would be by the Planning and Zoning Commission. And on both of these, the exceptions and variations, staff works with the petitioner to review it to see if there's any other alternatives to comply with the ordinances as they're written. And then finally, it's an appeal of an administrative decision, so that would be where there's been an alleged error in any order, requirement, or made by me. So if they feel like I've made an error in how we're interpreting the code, then they can appeal that to the Planning and Zoning Commission, which will be the decision maker on their appeal and whether I have erred in my ordinances and requirements there as well. So those are sort of the rundown of the new item. They're not new items, but for the new Planning and Zoning Commission, if you guys were to approve that, and sort of the process that they'd have to go through. With Chapter 28 is to amend the special use approval criteria. So this just provides a little bit more clarity on requirements and how those requirements relate to the community and the neighborhood as well. So, Mayor, at this time, I'm happy to answer any questions for yourself or the council. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Any comments from the audience on these proposed changes? Please come on down to the microphone, please.
Question and maybe some clarification, and it was because I heard that and understand that staff can make approvals or decisions about uses that may be non-conforming, and the example of somebody putting a shed next to the neighbor's property, is that staff level decision that the neighbor wouldn't know about, that would give permission for people to be in non-compliance, that would maybe offend is as good a word as any, the neighbor who might not even know that these things are coming for. With the zoning stuff, you know, you have notice to the neighbors and so forth. How does that fit in here?
Significant variation or deviation requires the zoning board currently, and soon to be the Planning and Zoning Commission, to hear it. The staff's authority are only for things that are considered de minimis. So in the example that Stan gave earlier about the shed and next to the neighbors, that would be subject to a hearing with public notice, and staff is not the final decision maker on that.
The aspect of what staff unchanged is the appeal process that we're amending, correct?
Actually, all of it is unchanged, except that it goes
Who
to one
who's
board.
going to?
Right.
Yeah,
Not-
right.
Nothing has really changed, except we're just combining two boards. The roles stay exactly the same, the authority stays exactly the same, no changes.
So that's an important aspect for everybody to keep in mind, is that those details about what the process looks like to a petitioner or an existing landowner are a process that would be a different body hearing it. Any other comments from the audience? Council comments or questions? Mike?
Just my compliments to staff, knowing how busy you all are. This was a little bit of work, so and there were a few cleanup things in there I noticed as well. So, but all in all, this, I'm confident, going to be a more efficient use of our volunteers in their time, and I think as well more effective as well, and more consumer or customer friendly too, in terms of the process, and I see a real benefit to the commission in that the people that are now hearing these appeals are more involved in them, and when it comes time to make more adjustments down the road, it'll be, you know, those commissioners will be more informed. Not that they don't get that information now, but being directly part of the process, I think will help. Win all around, and I fully support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Leslie?
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned last time, I agree. I think this is the most effective use of everybody's time, including those who get put on potentially the, zoning board of appeals and then have to have the meeting canceled on a regular basis. So I think this is the best way moving forward. And knowing that the folks who could be potentially seeing the appeals, as Commissioner Davenport mentioned now, will really be kind of in the zoning world on a regular basis rather than potentially just popping up once a year to have a meeting. So this will be probably in the best case scenario for all. My only question is that I know the Plan Commission was going to be seeing this and deliberating it, correct, at one of their. And my only other question was if the folks from the Zoning Board of Appeals, if there have been conversations with them, just again, to be respectful of all of those who are currently serving on boards and commissions. So, thank you.
Thank you. Others? Martin?
After
you,
Chris.
go ahead.
Thank you both. We've said it, but I think it bears repeating that from the perspective of the public and petitioners, nothing has changed. A three-level process of staff, then what will be the PZC, I'm going to call it, and then in many cases, the village council. So that process is not changing, it's just who is hearing it is the only thing that's changing. And before, it was either the Plan Commission or it was the Zoning Board of Appeals. Now they're just the PZC. But the process for a petitioner or an applicant remains the same. That items that staff was empowered to decide on their own before is also remaining unchanged. So what was before is still. And there's still no, and there's, I'm sorry, and also unchanged is who would be the final, make the final determination for certain things. So there were certain issues that the ZBA was the final determinator of, that's not changing either. Substance is changing, procedure is only changing in terms of who is handling it, not what is being handled or the process. That bears repeating and is worth repeating. The other thing I just want to pick up on is what Commissioner Sadowski, if you get mentioned in terms of the transition and the phasing, and forgive me if I overlooked it, but what is the timing that's proposed for the transition? Are the current members of the ZBA going to move, or is there a date certain by which everybody moves over?
We'd like to move pretty quickly on this and roll it into the annual board and commission reappointment process, which comes up at the end of this month and will probably play out through the month of September. And we'll work on the details of the September meetings in the coming weeks, and we'll let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Chris?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I agree. I think based on the number of meetings the ZBA had, I think this makes a lot of sense. One question I had, and I don't know, just for sake of maybe discussion or thought, with our building board of appeals, we require some expertise in a certain number of members. And is this a time that we should maybe look at this? Are these the kinds of decision makers that we may want to look to have of knowledge or expertise? I think it's 3 on the building board of appeals that we require have some sort of professional training.
I think that's right.
I don't know if there's value there. It literally is just a thought. But I wonder if now we're changing this board, if this might be a time to look at that. Outside of that, potential discussion, and I look forward to supporting that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I'm in full support of this thing. I've been thinking this might make sense for quite some time now. I think a couple of, to sort of extend a little bit on what Commissioner Davenport was saying, there's an opportunity for a little bit of an extended connection, deeper connection between people asked to review and consider appeals and the process. We spend a lot of time and effort on planning. Plan Commission is involved in lots of decisions, both in terms of actual transactions as well as broader community planning processes. And that connection to the council then is I think, a little bit strengthened by this arrangement. Importantly, too, the segregation or separation between decision makers and appeal remains. So it's not like decisions are then hearing the appeals to those decisions. That remains separated as well. So I think there's value to the community in doing this, both in terms of process and customer service, as well as the deeper connection to planning. So I'm looking forward to supporting this and moving it forward. Anything else? Okay, we'll be talking again about this next week.
And the final agenda is consideration of a resolution that would amend a current contract we have with Axon Enterprises. This has to do with police records management systems. So here to present background information on this item is our Chief of Police, Mike DeVries.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, I'm here to present on a proposed amendment to the village's current agreement with Axon Enterprises. The village's current 5-year agreement was in December of 2022. The agreement provided for the police department's current body-worn cameras, in-vehicle cameras, interview room systems, tasers, virtual reality training, digital evidence management, and the licensing and software of those devices. The proposed amendment provides the same services for the next 10 years, along with the addition of a new records management system and upgrades to the newest TASER 10 device and Body 4 camera device. The agreement includes automatic refresh of those devices and our in-vehicle cameras at their projected end of life throughout the term of the contract. The police department began using Axon products with our interview room camera systems in 2020 and expanded to body-worn and in-vehicle cameras in 2021. Our December 2022 agreement bundled each of those services while also devices for each of our officers. Since 2020, the police department's experience with Axon products and the back-end technology that supports them has been extremely positive. Through Axon, we can store a significant amount of digital evidence in a single ecosystem which allows us to track use of force and other performance measures. Since the police department has participated in the countywide computer-aided dispatch and records management system known as DUGIS, the DuPage Justice Information System. Within the past 4 years, Axon developed their own records management system known as Axon Records, which began with several large pilot agencies and is now being used successfully by 25 agencies nationwide. If approved, the agreement would make the 4th agency in Illinois to utilize Axon Records. Police department staff has researched Axon Records by attending several demonstrations and site visits of agencies currently using the software. We feel that this is the best technology for the future of the police department. The Axon Record system would allow us to generate police reports, assign follow-up investigations, access those reports to our digital evidence like body-worn camera footage and in-vehicle camera footage on a single pane of glass. The system would also provide interfaces to our current crash reporting and citation software and will allow us to electronically share all of our case information simultaneously with the DuPage County State's Attorney's Office. The system includes transcription software and a proprietary drafting aid that will save time drafting police reports and allow them to spend more time patrolling the community. The agreement also provides for continual updates of the records management system throughout the term of the contract, meaning we will continually be operating on the most current version of Axon Records as they continue to develop this software over the next 10 years. The proposed amendment consolidates costs, provides discounts due to service bundling, and guarantees expenses. If approved, the police department would begin working with the Axon team to develop and implement the new record system in the second quarter of 2025. Mayor, with that, I will take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Chief. Any comments from the audience on this item? Okay, council comments or questions? Leslie?
Sure. I don't have any questions, but the police department for always being compliant and doing so even earlier than we needed to. I know with the body-worn cameras, that was something that we did prioritize. I know that I have personally asked transparency questions and asked to make some data more available on the website so that residents could feel more comfortable about some of the things that we're saying from our police department, and you've always been forthright and happy to do so. It is incumbent on us as we start to really have more of these valid conversations around community connections and policing, that we also properly fund and efficiently fund our police department with the things that they need in order to do their jobs. I liken this to, I work in public health now, and I think about the EHR and healthcare and how we can try and make that much more efficient so that doctors and clinicians can get back to seeing their patients. I see it in the same way for the police department. If we can make this data easy, accessible, transparent, and to be able to be bundled in a way that takes a little bit of time and strain off of the officers, then they have more time to spend out in the community. So I do think this will be a community benefit, and thank you for the presentation.
Others? Martin?
Thank you, Mayor. I also appreciate, Chief, you and the department bringing this forward. I recall back in 2016 when we decided to go to DUGIS for this function, because one of the things the village is for a long time now and continues to believe in is exploring opportunities for cooperation, collaboration, and where it makes sense, consolidation, and where we could agency or collaborate with other municipalities, other government agencies in order to provide a vital service to our community in a more efficient and more effective way, we would do that. And that's why it made sense to do this in 2016. But every time that we said we did that, it was always with a caveat of so long as it still made sense and it was still achieving that effective efficiency that caused us to collaborate or consolidate. So I have no issue if our first responders and their professional judgment think that this can be better done by leaving DUGIS, which was something that we decided was the right thing to do back in 2016, but times change, technology changes, methods change, then this was always, the caveat was we'll do it until it no longer makes sense, and there have been other situations where we have collaborated or consolidated, later changed because circumstances change. So we should always be flexible and willing to do that. And to pick up again on Commissioner Stowski-Fugit's point, you might not think that police records are all that important as opposed to other things, but they are super important for basic liberties in our society. If records are not properly kept and chain of custody is not kept, and I know I'm going down an evidence path, but you know what I mean, then that can have a whole host of problems. So I applaud the deep analysis and the recommendation to pursue the path that is going to continue to provide record service for the PD in the best, most effective and efficient fashion possible. So I plan to support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike?
Just curious, have other left DUGIS?
Currently one, and we are, as of right now, one of two other agencies that will be leaving DUGIS.
Yeah, so, I mean, part of the efficiency back in 2015-16, hoping to achieve, it's been diminished somewhat by the fact that municipalities have left or are considering leaving, and with our other systems, seems like it makes so much sense, and I also love the idea that we're leading the way, right? We are not waiting to be one of the last people to do something here. We're actually leading the way, and for good reason. And my years on the school board, I was used to that experience, and I'm really pleased to be part of that here as well. So, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Chris?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of questions. Do we lose any data aggregation access by moving away from DUGIS? What is there risk there in terms of where we were collectively using the data, stepping out of that?
So currently under the DUGIS system, we are able to share police reports with other agencies or be able to see their police reports. Under Axon, they have built the capability for us to share and view other agencies that are in the Axon record system.
Okay.
So we will have that capability. However, we were able to do the police work. It's a rare occasion when we need to go grab a police report from another agency. and check contacts with a certain individual to see other police reports. So until more agencies were to move to Axon, we would have to do it kind of the old way.
Sure.
But I would say that overall, the user friendliness of this system in comparison to and the capabilities of this technology and the fact that it is cohesive and under a single pane of glass provides so many other advantages and time savings that we believe will have more analytical capability than we do with, and be able to customize these reports, digitize our paper documents, and be able to pull the data that we want because we have control of what the report looks like versus just kind of being subject to what the consortium decides on.
That's great. I assume this is a cloud-based system, so we're not talking about housing servers or, yeah.
It is,
Okay.
it is. And so we do have 2 physical servers in the police department that actually house our interview room camera systems. They're located extremely small. Everything else is done through the cloud, so it's technologically, it's really the best system that we've worked with. When you think of the amount of body-worn camera videos, in-car camera videos, every time an officer activates their emergency lights, those videos are all funneled through the cloud, organized, and there for us to view. And it have not had any technological issues with as complicated and as much data that comes across, but all these, the reports and everything with that will be logged into the cloud. So that includes any digital photographs that a citizen uploads. They can do that through the app. And that will go directly into evidence.com. And that is that single pane of glass that we'll use for reporting.
Excellent. That sounds amazing and innovative, which
Yeah.
Mike talked about. Clearly, one of our objectives is to be innovative. And being first adopters comes with a little risk, right? We're talking about a system that hasn't been rolled out, but we have at least some assuredness with some existing systems we're using theirs. And in my world, first in or one of the first in, you have an opportunity to help shape the system. So the feedback and the real world experience that you provide back to this this company should benefit us and others who are using it. So I look forward to supporting this. It seems like it makes a lot of sense. I also believe we've got some protections around pricing should more join and that pricing drops, or certainly against any sort of changes that might impact our great work. So I too appreciate this innovative approach, and I look forward to supporting this. Thank you for coming today. Yep. Thank you, Mayor.
Are there any built-in sort of protections for us as it relates to evolving law? That's probably not a fair question for the moment, but that's a...
Yes, there are.
Okay.
In short, yes.
Thank you. We just think about 2016 to 2024, right?
Yeah.
The world flipped, and it could certainly flip again, so, good. Any other questions? Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I want to take a minute to really thank Chief DeVries. He's supported by a great team, and he was very personally involved. You can see in the level of detail, and several folks in the legal department as well. This was a lot of work, and it's going to pay off. So thanks to everybody on those teams. Thanks, Chief DeVries. And with that, that ends our first reading tonight, Mayor.
Thank you, Dave. Enza?
Yes, Mayor, only one item tonight to present, and that's an ordinance amending the municipal code concerning the Plan Commission and the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Thank you. Item 8 is the mayor's report. So the first thing I have is, can you guys hear me? Still? All right, so I still got to work harder. All right, that's, we're trying out our new chambers here, and some of us have a tendency to talk too softly, so I will work on that, and we'll take notes along the way. Here for a while, so thank you to my colleagues for covering for me for a while. I had some pretty exciting family travel that was really a pleasure and a joy to be able to do, so thank you, everybody. And then I wanted to say thank you to a lot of people. I can't name them all. You know, Mike Baker and Enza Petrarca sort of have led a lot of this facility change. Our facilities people, our police department, the people that are in this building, a lot of people did a lot of really good work, and I remain convinced this is a building that whether you love it or hate it, thought it was a good idea or a bad idea, 10 years from now our village is going to be proud of, and that was a big part of what we were trying to accomplish. Good service and something we can all be proud of. Last thing just to mention, I've been asked a couple times, nobody asked tonight, but when this is going to really be open. So there will be later in the year a bit more of an official, you know, ribbon cutting, open house kind of a thing. We have demo to do, we have District 58 to accommodate. There are still quite a bit of work to do, but a little later in the year there'll be some opportunities. So please keep your eyes open for that. You're obviously welcome to all of our meetings, but we're looking for an opportunity to take the People's House and open it up as well. That'll be a little later in the year. Item 9 is council member reports. An opportunity for council members to report out on goings-on in the community or things they think the public should hear about. Mike, got anything?
Nothing other than just excited to be here in this new space, and I think the temperature's more comfortable. The lighting is so much better. I feel like we've come out of the dark ages. So compliments to staff and go about the business of the village while getting everything moved in here. So look forward to that big grand opening at some point down the line. That's all. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Danny?
No report, thank you, Mayor.
Leslie?
Yes, the annual Grove Foundation golf outing is Saturday, September 7th at the Belmont Golf Course. And the shotgun start is at 2 p.m. And then, of course, we will have dinner afterwards. This year we have a few additional kind of premium exclusive raffle prizes, so make sure you go to thegrovefoundation.org. The must be there because there is another Grove Foundation. And if you go to our events, you can get a link to the information about the golf outing there. And also just want to wish all of the students D58 on Friday. So I hope they have a great start to the year and be extra careful as you see a ton of kids walking to school. That's it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Martin?
Thank you, Mayor. Good things come to those who wait, right? I will save my more eloquent comments for the event yet to be planned about the new building, but also want to join your words, thanking a lot of people over many put in a lot of time, blood, sweat, and tears, literally and figuratively, to make this happen. As new as it is, though, it kind of feels real comfortable. I mean, it feels like it's been here for a long time. It feels real comfortable. It is great to be able to hear everybody, present company accepted. What's that? But the podium mic is working great. You can see everybody in the back of the room, all the way to the back. The windows are great. It's congratulations. But thanks to the community for making it happen, because it was a long time coming. Long time coming from a building that was a ball bearing factory, and then it was taken over by the Village of Downers Grove in the 60s and served as a village hall for way too long.
Way too long.
And a police station that probably, with all due respect to Chief DeVries, I think you and your predecessor will agree, probably belonged in the Smithsonian. Talk about the difference between 20. Wow. So I'm glad that the police department finally has a building that is fit for the outstanding agency that it is. It's about time. So very glad to see that. And again, thanks everyone for their support and for being here. It's good to see you in the new space. And I know I said I would keep my eloquent comments for later, so I will. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Chris?
Echo a big thank you. I know this is building a plane as we're flying it. In many cases, we have a lot of things going on here in the village, a lot of action items. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute, but just thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to that evening for the grand opening. And but it's here. We're open, and I'm real pleased to see it. And great job to everyone involved.
Thank you. Item 10 is our manager's report. We're going to do a little long-range planning information as it relates to priority action items, but before we hand it over to Dave, just as a for-your information, oftentimes in the past, you have heard us talk about, and you've watched us, some of you have joined us as we adjourn to a different room. We call it the committee room, and it gave us the opportunity as a council to sit in a little different setting around a table. That sometimes can be more conducive to certain types of dialogues. That type of an arrangement will ultimately is intended to happen in this room, the back end of this room. You may have noticed when you came in, there's a few tables back there. We're not going to do that tonight because we're still working through everything. But in the future, you'll see that same type of action where we sit down to talk with each other in a little different, more casual setting. It'll just be the same room. Dave, over to you.
And it would have happened tonight, but frankly, we didn't have a chance to practice it, and we want to make sure that it's a great experience for all. So I think next week we will have that experience, and we're really looking forward to not having to change rooms for that.
You didn't want to wing it?
We try not to. So
What could go wrong?
What could possibly
What
go
could go
wrong? We are talking tonight under the manager's report about long-range plan. We're actually in the process of 2025 long-range plan. This is actually meeting number 3. We've had meetings in June and July. Tonight's focus is on our work plan that the council has established, also known as priority action items. It's a key component because this is the part where the council directs most of the resources and focus of this organization. So first what I'll do is I'll give a quick overview of the August monthly report. We've been priority action items throughout the year. So here's the August report. This chart shows all of the priority action items that are included in the 2023 to 2025 long-range plan. The yellow line indicates the projects that are called for to be active in now, and according to the schedule, there are many of them, as you can see. I'm happy to report that 4 have been completed. They are shown here on the screen. This slide shows the other projects that are currently active. The Civic Center project shows as yellow because it's just a little bit behind schedule, and we are working to make sure that all construction is wrapped up by the end of the year. We will work diligently to make that happen. That's why that is yellow. On a related note, in the Civic Center, the property in between this new building and the existing Village Fleet Services building that will be eventually sold off to a developer for an apartment development. That is also yellow due to schedule. It too is running just a little bit behind schedule. We'll have more information on that shortly. The balance here, most of these projects are in green. They are active. That green means they are on schedule on to report. The last one there, the Meadowbrook Tax Increment Financing District and Redevelopment Agreement. We continue to work with the owner of the Meadowbrook Shopping Center as a partner to revitalize that shopping center. It is behind schedule as well as we try to work through several details in the redevelopment agreement and the zoning application. If you're interested in more detail, each and every one of these projects has its own slide, steps, and next steps. Due to time constraints, I'll just refer to them. They're posted on the website. If you want to take a deeper dive, please do. But I do want to go back to this slide and talk about the council's confirmation and update to your work plan for the balance of this year and into next year through May of 2025. The Village Council and staff working on many of the priority action items right now. The Civic Center project, which won't wrap up until the end of the year. An update to our comprehensive plan. The preparation of an environmental sustainability plan. A downtown streetscape plan. A Fairview focus area streetscape plan. An enhanced outdoor dining plan. An enhanced bike and pedestrian plan. The lead service line replacement plan. And implementing previous comprehensive plan as it relates to Fairview area, and we are currently working on a rezoning of that area, which you will see in October. All of these projects are planned to continue through May of 2025. In addition to that, Village Council and staff will recommence work on an item that we did some work on previously last year. The item is video gaming. That work will start up again in November. advisory referendum that's on the ballot. And in the event that video gaming remains permitted pursuant to the ordinance the council recently passed, then staff will be implementing the licensing program that goes along with that. So this is a very robust work plan, and we've relied on typical staff members who've headed up projects. We've expanded the staff members who haven't headed up projects. They have been heading up some of these projects. And we make extensive use of consultants. Just on the guiding DG, there's a team of consultants, I think 5 working together to pull these across the finish line. If you look at the bottom of this work plan, you'll see that there are 3 priority action items that are on the schedule, starting, supposed to be commencing in the 4th quarter of this year, and then again in the 1st quarter of 2025. This includes the complete of the sign ordinance, and then discussion about both public tree planting policies and consideration of a private tree regulation and set of ordinances. Each of those is in and of itself a significant undertaking, which would require extensive work from both the staff and the council. It's also important to note that the guiding DG outcomes, all those plans, will help inform policy direction on these 3 projects moving forward. It is going to be incredibly difficult to effectively undertake the next 3 priority action items while we still are working on the guiding DG and all these other projects. So because of that, staff recommends that the village focus our efforts on the priority action items that are currently being undertaken, and that the remaining 3 projects not be pursued at this time, but that, of course, we revisit the every year as part of the long-range plan. With that, Mayor, I'm happy to answer any questions or comments that the council may have.
Thanks, Dave. What's on everybody's mind? Mark, you want to start?
Sure, I'll start. Thank you for the candor. I appreciate it. I mean, there's a lot going on. A lot of work has already been done. A lot's going on. Back in summer of 2023, that we were discussing the high priority action items for the 2023-2025 period, that it was a very ambitious list. I mean, 18 items. I think some of us remarked at the time that it was the most ambitious list in 20 years, with anyone's memory. But this council, I also remember very clearly, said, you know, we're up at the task. We're our sleeves. Let's get to it. And everybody should be, I think, kudos to us for having that can-do attitude. Likewise, I think staff, while recognizing that the high priority action item list that we came up with was extremely ambitious and more robust. I think you were being polite when you said that, Manager Fielman. More robust than ever before. You were roll up your sleeves and get it done if at all possible. And kudos for not saying no, just can't do it. I think in some places you did say that, but 18 we probably said, you know, we'll give it a try. And part of that was because we didn't have data points. I mean, like with any project, until you start, Commissioner Davenport would appreciate this, until you can have all the plans in the world, but until you put a shovel in the ground, you don't know what's really under it, you don't know what's going to happen.
That's it.
And it's hard until we have some data points. And I think now, more than a year later, we have some data points, and that's what I'm hearing from staff is, okay, you know, here's where we're at, here's what we've tried. Some of these things we just aren't going to be able to get to in the timetable we had hoped. And I give you credit for not saying not going to happen back then, because you don't know. I mean, things could have gone faster, things could have dropped off. So let's keep them on the list. Let's work. And I mean, congratulations to everybody for getting done what's gotten done in the last year. And I think the one proposal which was extremely innovative was combining comprehensive plan update with the other plan updates, all in one big project to try to actually see if they could get done. Never done that before, so yay to us for trying it. But frankly, I'm not surprised that we're having this conversation, and it's from no lack of trying. And I'm, again, not trying to speak for anybody else. I'm just not surprised that we're here and that there was a request for some relief, because even with the suggestion that 3 items are not denied, deferred, that 3 items are deferred, it's still an extremely ambitious and robust, high-priority action item list for the rest of this period. And as mentioned, I think what you've shared with the council, both here and earlier, is that, here's the data points as to why we are where we're at. And so I think this is a not entirely unexpected ask. It's been action. But the other thing I want to say is, if something's worth doing, I think it's worth doing it right. And I'm concerned about trying to push too far is going to make some things maybe not get done the way we would like them done. I don't know. That's just a feeling. So I get it, and I want to think about it a little bit more. But there's at least one item here, a couple items very much in favor of when we had this conversation last year. I'm still as much in favor of pursuing them as I was last year, but I understand that we may not be able to get them to them on the timetable that we originally contemplated. That's disappointing, but again, I don't see this as a result of any lack of trying. In fact, just the opposite. I think there's been tremendous effort put forth to try to get things done. And it's not just getting them right, but some people are probably going to roll their eyes at me because I say this all the time, but I think we have to bring the community along with us. And we've heard comments tonight about, we don't want people thinking that the decisions have been made and the cake's already been baked. Well, the one way to make sure that people realize they've had a voice and they participate is you got to take some time to do things and work with the community to do that and not try to go too fast. So that's just sort of my thinking out loud. Things down before I was thinking. But I get it. So while I'm disappointed that we're not going to get through everything, because there's some things on here that are very important, I know, to a lot of people, including me, it's not denied, it's a request to defer. And I'd rather take the time to do things right than to try to push, especially when we're hearing from the people that we trust to get these things done that they might be, bending might be getting to the point of breaking. So those are my thoughts for now, Mayor.
Anyone else? Leslie?
Yeah, I echo many of Commissioner Tully's thoughts. I do have concerns that if we defer it with no kind of let's revisit it at a certain date, that it will just continue to get pushed to the side, which I don't want. I want us to sacrifice quality because we feel as though we need to push ahead and, make people work 80-hour work weeks, which is also not acceptable. So one thing that I was thinking about is I would like us to at least potentially commit to revisiting this, say in Q1 of 2025, because we don't know what's happening with video gaming or a couple of the other things, and we don't know where we'll be then. There's an expectation that we're going to have this conversation again, and we can revisit where we are so that the public doesn't feel as though this is falling off. Still, again, meets a little bit with the timeline that we have up there of most of these things, mostly starting in Q4 of this year and Q1 of next year. So I think if we revisit it at the start of 2025, I feel a little bit more comfortable, at least if we can kind of commit to coming back and having that conversation in one of these priority action item review. Other thing that I would love to propose that I've talked a little bit about before is potentially even theming our coffee with the council. So we always do the one in, is it November, right, at the fire station for the budget. Because I don't necessarily want this to fall off, and I have been contacted by several folks who are concerned that some of these things might fall off the radar. I wonder if have some of those early conversations so that, getting to your point, Commissioner Tully, we can start to bring people along with us so we know what they're thinking. We know if this is kind of a priority for us. It wouldn't mean adding any more to, time that we're having to spend out. But this way, I think about some of those meetings in the winter when we're at the library and we sometimes only get maybe 4 or 5 people. If we potentially themed that we actually could start listening to the public, even if we don't necessarily have the bandwidth to be redoing the ordinance right in that moment, at least we're starting those conversations and building that foundation early with residents. So those are my 2 thoughts about it. Yeah, that's all I have.
I'm just going to weigh in on something you said. I would like to very large largely, except that I'd like to do that a little sooner.
Sure.
This is a discussion kind of thing, so I'm taking a little privilege and jumping in here, but I like the idea of, you know, we could say, well, we're going to review this when we next do high priority action items, which is next year, but that feels a lot like, yeah, we're just not doing it. And I think we're going to get this in November. We're going to get. Also, can't move it closer. I'm largely agreeing with Leslie, except suggesting I think it maybe be better if we had that sort of check-in point where we all looked at each other and talked about this list again in December. Because for two reasons. One is we're going to we'll know whether or not video game is actually a thing. At least to what degree it is. You sort of have a sprint period before then and the next council. You've got 4.5 months, not quite, where you're not going to make a lot of big policy decisions, but you could decide either to put stuff on hold or not, but you have a little window of time there. And I feel like I don't really want to wait till Q1, because then you're talking about having, you know, depending on when you define Q1, you could be talking about just a few weeks before a council change. I'd like to move that up a little bit. Others, Mike?
Yeah, I agree with that as well. And just to state the obvious too, you know, the majority of this council will still be in place in 2025, right? So, because there's 3 seats up for election. So I think, you know, there's relative certainty that the 4 of us that will for sure be part of this are still going to support these things going forward. And I know that the next council, so I remember when I first joined, right, we had a few months of working through the LRP process. I love to see this work continue through where I'm going with this. So I'm not sure what the mechanism is for that, but this isn't a situation, I don't think, where all of a sudden there's going to be election next spring and these 3 items are not going to be things that this council is going to support, you know, because there's at least 4 of us here. So I also, just echoing some of what Commissioner Tully said, you know, not a surprise, really, other than the fact that I'm almost surprised it took this long. I mean, when we went into this, I still hear Greg, you know, Commissioner Jose saying he was afraid that we were doing too much and we need to do things right, and that by having too many things on the plate, we're at risk of not doing things the right way. I'm glad to see that this is played out in the right way, and that staff is coming to us and saying for us to do this, to do our job well, and at the level that we all expect in the community, you know, taking on this additional work is going to come at a cost, right? So I applaud our council for aiming high. In my work, we always aim for perfection, but I'll never achieve it. It just won't happen. But I'm going to get a lot closer if I work for it, right? And so I love the fact that we aimed for a lot. And my recollection of past conversations, I mean, even if we only get through 15 of these things, that'll be a great accomplishment of this council.
It'll be a record.
So I really applaud us all for embarking on this journey and being so ambitious and doing such a great job and being smart enough to say, hey, we need to make a little adjustment here. So but I do support the idea of in December, you know, having a conversation about this. Just a you know, check in, where are we at? Because you know, there's one of these items I would really love to see move forward. I've been wanting to see move forward for a long time. So, but I'm here for the greater good, not me. So, anyhow, thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
And it's a discussion. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, go ahead, Chris.
Okay.
We'll come back.
Sure. So I think I have a little different view on this, but some consensus. I think if our staff is asking for this type of relief after the year of work that they've put in, that we've administratively over the last year, I certainly trust that it's upon us to take and heed that. I think what I would say, however, is I don't view this list as a list that is a high number of things to do and then in 2 years come back and do. This to me is what I would like to see is the new standard. And I think totally understand this idea of wanting to do things right. Part of my concern, and has been for some time, is our overall staffing for this. In the last 14 years, we've probably 70 reduction in staff. And I think if we are committed to doing these types of things and more of this work, it's going to require an investment in the staff. We have an amazing staff, but of course there's limitations. And I candidly think any discussion about moving these and doing, we should also be discussing whether or not, and looking to staff if there's recommendations, if they need more folks to help get it done. Because to me, again, I think this list is more indicative of what I'd like to see moving forward every 2 years. And I don't necessarily think it's a matter of, well, we tried it and we have to back down. It's if these things are important and we continue to have things that are important on this list, we need to support it with the staff it takes to get it done. So I'm happy to take this request and say, yeah, let's maybe defer this. But if we're going to discuss this sooner rather than later, trying to keep these things moving forward, and what type of staff, because I think even a comment I heard is that we couldn't even manage a consultant to do some of these things here. You know, when I hear that to me is a strapped staff, candidly. So I think those are my thoughts in terms of where I'd like to see this go. Just maybe a side note, Mike, I'm not sure, even though there's 4 who are guaranteed to be back, I'm not sure these 3 have 4 support. So we may not be able to count on that if these things carrying on to the next council.
I understand.
Yeah.
It's,
So
it's not done till it's done, but in terms of the relative, it's definitely more likely to happen than if we had 4 people going off and there were only 3 continuing.
Of course, more likely. Yeah.
Since we are having a conversation, and I appreciate those points, Chris, the only thing I would say, and I'm all in favor of if we can come up with a plan and get stuff done, there's no magic number of 5, 7, 12, because part of it is, it's not a number, it's how much is in each number. And as I look at this list, there's some things that you don't do every 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got things on here that, like the building we're sitting in.
A comprehensive plan.
Comprehensive plan, sign ordinance. I mean, there's some things in here that once you do them, then you're all about implementing them. So I agree with you, but I'm also cognizant of you don't need to have 18, 20 every year to still have a very effective 2-year period for your high priority action items, and you get some very important things done. Part of the problem, and then we talked about this last summer, there's some really big items on here. Well, that one might be one line. They take a lot of stuff. And some of those staff and consultants would be very appropriate to have for some of these projects, but they may not be necessary to have all the time. So I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just making an observation.
And I think my thought on that is like the Village Hall, major time.
Right.
now.
free up time.
it
Sure,
will
you're absolutely right.
Absolutely free
You're
up
absolutely
time.
right.
So, I
Same with
agree.
the comprehensive plan.
Exactly.
You're absolutely right.
So, you're right, it isn't the number. I think, to me, the number is indicative of our desire to do a lot of things, to do big things. So I'd like to see more of it.
It also occurs to me several of these items are actually items that we decided to continue forward, right? From the previous councils had decided, for instance, the Civic Center project. But that how long did the ERP system take?
Year and a half, 2 years,
Right,
3
and we're,
years.
it shows up here as, 1 quarter. Yeah,
Are handed to us like the lead service replacement.
Right.
loans that
Yeah.
we-
Right.
We don't have an option.
That's the thing to remember. I mean, more than that, let's, obviously, we talk about size and scope of any, whatever might be on whatever list. But we made pretty conscious decision when we jumped into this facilities that we knew that was going to be a real resource hog. And so then, as we got that a little far, adjusted our sales and thought maybe we could add some more. But that was, from the moment we decided that was actually go, there was a real recognition amongst everybody that that was going to be a burden. And, the other thing is, Mike mentioned it just now, and everybody was nodding, but, for the public, when you look at this list, lead service line replacements, forget about whether the science behind it or the politics behind it, that's when somebody brings a subject like video gaming and ask for a big portion of the community to really consider something, it's really kind of not a choice to at least go through the effort, and it does take effort. Saying you're going to put it on a ballot is not the same as writing a single letter and mailing it off to Springfield. It's way more than that. There are challenges in what's brought to us. Meadowbrook TIF and Ogden Avenue TIF aren't optional things. Those are investments the community is either being asked to make for 23 years or has made 23 years ago that need some attention right now. They can't just be, we're not going to get into it. So there's always a mix of stuff that's high burden, low burden, and mandatory and discretionary that comes on this list. And I guess the thing I don't know that I have the same point on is saying that this list is appropriate or not. This list is the list we came up with. The next one will have 7 pieces of input plus whatever the public gives us, be decided next fall, and we'll all do the best we can to weigh what we think the burden is or isn't. And it's not, I think that all of us are in agreement, I think that there's no point in setting a goal you know you can hit. What, Mike, would you say, aim high? Where we differ and where we've differed in the past is how far each one of us is willing to stretch. But I think everybody that's sitting up here is wanting to do an arm's list of things for constituents that they've either heard from personally or collectively and corporately through these meetings that we'd like to get done. It's just a question of prioritization. So I'm still kind of crossing my fingers that if we have a long-range plan after new council members get their feet wet, that maybe between January and then we can still knock something out. I'm hopeful. I think it's worth at least trying, or at least making a point of talking about it again.
Absolutely.
That's another observation too, just since we're in school starting season. It's like this is our list of, we only get to pick so many electives, right? I mean, we have several. These are the things we have to, and we're getting to that senior year, and now we can pick a few electives, and there's not as many of them as we'd like, right?
Yeah.
So,
I think the only thing, Mayor, I would say to that is, we haven't before been told our capacity. My understanding, this is the first time that staff has come and said we've reached our capacity.
Maybe this council.
Yeah, that's not, we have reached capacity.
That has happened before.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've
I
reached
was told-
capacities before, and we've also had conversations where we got to the point of trying to decide that list, and we were drawing lines through things because we really felt we were.
And it may have been, Chris, because something happened. So all of a sudden throw your whole schedule off, and now staff has to deal with something, and so that's happened before.
So it was.
But it's happened.
I was told this was the first time.
Yeah, yes.
Go
This
ahead,
is,
Dave.
this is the first time we find ourselves in a position of literally trying to take something off the list per a staff recommendation because of the overcapacity issues that we have.
Okay, so
That's,
that's
this is
exactly
the
my
first
point.
time that we've had something on, usually the discussion is, staff has been saying, add anything? That's happened several times.
Right.
This is the first time that we've actually said, please take something off the list.
Thank you for that
Yes.
clarification. So to me, it feels like we've demonstrated where the breaking point is with this list. The idea that we all didn't have, or all had many different things to add to this list last time around. There were many more things than this. My point to this is in terms of just looking at bandwidth and trying to understand bandwidth. This is actually some data to give us as to what we have bandwidth. This is the first time uncle has been called.
I love to think of it that way, Chris, but, you know, the nature of things is just, it just, so we've just had our Civic Center project. That take, you know, and now we're not going to have a Civic Center project, and nor are we planning anything like having a Civic Center project. And the demands that task took is completely different than the demands of the lead service abatement or, you know, the Ogden TIF extension or pick one, right? And so, and then once we get the all in place, you know, it's just, as I look at each of these things, they all require different skills, different amount of time to accomplish, and I don't know how much data we can take from this in terms, like the next council, how we can, okay, we got all that done, that means we can get all these things done, right? I don't know that it really works like that, and.
I don't think it works like that at all, Mike. These are all unique, and each time they're unique. The stuff that the
Right.
village does with repetition, we do, and it's not on this list.
Right.
These are the, every one of these things is
Yeah.
effectively a one-off.
Yeah, this is all in addition to the normal every day in and day out work that has to be done in order to just.
But we know the band, know what it takes for day in and day out.
Yeah.
Right? Go ahead, Dave.
Sorry.
That's okay.
So this staff member at least really embraces this December check-in. And the reason for that, there's a couple things. One is just as a backdrop, we have grown the efficiency on the staff side immensely, especially over the last couple of years. Our staff is amazing. Their capacity is growing because there's technology, innovation, et cetera. So, you know, it's not as cut and dry as just staff capacity. Our staff is learning, growing, getting better at managing multiple projects, maturing. I might be a little biased. This is the best staff out there. So, and they're really proving that. And the second thing is, it's not just about staff capacity, it's about the whole team and the community's capacity to do this kind of work. And the reason I embrace starting next week on a multi-month journey in really the heavy lifting of the guiding DG. Almost every council agenda item from now through December will have policy discussions at the council level. We don't know if those will be quick. We don't know if those will be extended. We need the interaction with the public. So this December timeframe to sort of gauge where we're at makes a lot of sense. And council for providing that direction so far tonight, because I think right now, from the staff perspective, we're saying we're at capacity. We will know where we are at a community level, at a policy-making level come December, and I think it'll be more clear to all of us. And remember, also, we try to provide resources based on council direction, and that's the budgeting process. So we've been on a recent journey of adding staff. One of the an environmental sustainability coordinator, which has grown our capacity in that area immensely, and we're able to move through this environmental sustainability plan at a pace we just weren't able to last year. So there's a lot of dials that are being adjusted, adding staff with the right skill, gaining efficiencies, and trying to figure this out. So a little long-winded there, but we really embrace this December check-in, and I think it'll be more clear to everybody at that time.
up on that a little bit, Dave, and say something to all of my colleagues and really for the public. Regardless of what this list looks like, it's 6 things or 60 things. The work that has gotten done because not only is everybody working together, but what does working together really mean? We come up here and we talk to each other on a Tuesday night. It also means that everybody has contributed and then recognized that it was also time to move on. So every one of these subjects, and those still to come, have advocates up here that, they feel really strongly about it, but we try real hard to keep making progress and not let perfection get in the way of that. And that's an attribute that I think I hope the public recognizes in all of the members of this council that is important. And so when you see us sort of moving on, I'm standing up here and pounding my fist about one particular thing, and then suddenly we're moving on. It's because all of us recognize that there is no way to get 100% perfection for any one of these items from the 7 of us. And I hope the public sees that and reflects on that within themselves a little bit, because it's an important thing. Whatever your subject is, whichever item on this list of work is most important to you, realize that it's going to get what we're hoping for is progress, not exactly the way any one person wanted that subject. Why am I saying that? Because the next list, there are councils across this country, you can watch some of them on YouTube, that can't get out of their own way. And the result is that work doesn't get done. And this council is really good, I think, at that input and then recognizing it's time to make a decision and move on. And so I just, Chris and I don't see things the same way, in particular right this moment. We could wrestle all night. But I guarantee that he's doing really good work, and we all are. And I want to thank everybody for that, because that's a big part of why this gets done. Staff could staff up with 60 more people, and we could all be in the way, and nothing would get done. It's an issue. People here.
And I would just add to that, Mayor, thank you for that. I think we get out of the way because of our staff. We've got a great staff that we know. They've heard us. We've made our points, or we've made our requests, or had our little tit for tats. They've interpreted it, and they move it forward. So I give them credit as well.
I think it sounds like we've got some direction based on this request. Anything else anybody wants to add? All right, we're not in our committee room setting, but if you have a comment on this conversation you just heard, or this request, it's not a normal setting, but come on down to the microphone and let us know if you've got a comment on it. Otherwise, we'll keep moving.
Earlier, I know you want to make the decision in fall of this year to implement in spring of next year. So I would suggest tabling, making the sidewalks bigger. At the Rotary Fest, you had your guiding Downers Grove. I talked to Councilman Davenport there, and I noticed that they're asking Andy and write stuff and put it on the little board. And this is going on at the market on Saturday. So we were told at the market on Saturday that they believe that this is being used in the guidelines of the information that you're getting. And if you're getting information of the dozens and dozens of that went up there and told them that this is what we like and this is what we don't like, and here's your candy, we'll write this down and we'll put it on the sticky board. I hope that is not true. But you're probably going to hear from somebody else that was there that heard the same things. They were going to check in with you. And so I'm just saying, I hope they checked in with you, because this went on during, this goes on, and it should not be included in there. Okay? Thank you.
Just if I could.
Sure.
If you don't, I'm going.
Yeah, yes, I was. There's all sorts of input in the guiding DD process, and we, next week, will hear an update from Altogether, the subconsultant who is handling the engagement. We'll get information of events, the types of input, and who gave us that input, and I'm assure you it will be weighted properly. Some of the comments speak for themselves in terms of the perspective of the age of the person who may have made it. All comments are important, but I think we'll be able to sort through that.
You'll be able to filter out the ones written in crayon? Is that what you're saying?
No, they're by the people working there.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Some of us were.
Well, I think I would be remiss if I didn't come up to try and defend the two items pertaining to trees at the latter end of the schedule, pertaining to municipal tree policies and protections for trees on private property. I just want to mention a couple things in that regard. I think throughout the planning, the long-range planning process, and I believe from what I hear as the guiding DG process is going on, I think the community has shown a lot of support for this idea, tree cover being important. And it's important to the community, and I think that's been input processes that we have had. Secondly, it's objectively important. Our tree cover and the number of trees we have affects everything from our input to the global environment to our very local environment in terms of, you know, the shade and water absorption and aesthetic value that these trees provide. So lastly, we have we do have an environmental commission. We have assets that we can throw at this problem. They have a supporting contractor, and I know things are getting pretty busy with the sustainability plan for that commission, but and I can't speak for the commission as a whole, but I think that there are people there who would be willing to try and assess those issues. So I am hoping that we'll be able to revisit this and keep that within the current planning period, or at least get a start so we're ensured that the effort will continue into the next period. So I'm hoping that trees delayed will not become trees denied. Thanks.
So I did come to the market on Saturday, and I did ask the consultants if what kind of input was collected, and the data that is collected about number of contacts and so forth, and the data that you all are using to determine whether community input is input, and the 5-year-olds do get counted according to this consultant. So I question the quality of your data for some of these opinions. Discussion of the number of items and what can be done, and disagreements and moving forward for the sake of I'm not sure what, getting something done. There are things that should not be done, and obviously my opinion is that the outdoor dining should not be enhanced. Doesn't need to be enhanced, and it's to the benefit of only a handful of people and for a few hours a year, and to the detriment of others. So in my opinion, you can take that one off the list and free up some time and some money. The notion, Chris, that we got to do, sitting here thinking, holy cow, I'm seeing the cash register go ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. My tax dollars are going to go up, and that is, as a senior citizen, a real concern. I'm not sure what embellishments y'all have in mind, and there doesn't seem to be, so far, we haven't seen recognize that fact, but for what? I mean, we're not seeing yet what the benefit of all this expenditure of time and money is going to produce. So y'all are making me nervous is what it comes down to, and I hope that you can step back and assess what all is being accomplished and whether it needs to be accomplished or should be accomplished. of this whole program. So I'll be watching to still, but just don't get your enthusiasm make you so heady that you move faster than should be for the benefit of the community. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Thank you. Sala Moberg. To piggyback off of Clorinda's comments about children being involved in the, excuse me, being involved in this company. I did go to Downers Grove South, guiding DG, spoke a lot with Mike Davenport. Really great to talk to the public with, so thank you for sharing your time and oversharing your time. But I'm quite was like, why am I coming into this and coloring with whatever it was it was markers. We to speak instead of 5 minutes. And it was just, why are there children at the YMCA, spinning a thing? They don't pay mortgages, they don't pay taxes, they don't buy groceries, and they're involved in this company that you're paying $1 million for. I went on their website, I went over everything, and really there's children. I just didn't care for that. But I also didn't care for getting only 7 minutes. Just by the time we got into the Downers Grove South meeting, it was like just trying to grasp what it was that they were putting in front of us. The map, we couldn't get around the map, the tables, it was tough. But I was really, really grateful to talk to Mike Davenport. He's good with people, and he talked. So,
This is going to turn red.
Yeah, no, don't. I appreciate it, but I didn't care for the company seeing all the children, and I didn't care for the coloring. It was like, what are you going to do for our town? And paying them is what you're going to be paying them is, I don't see that as a good thing. So, thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mayor, I think we're still on the manager's report then, and I really appreciate the feedback. We will plan on checking in again on our long-range plan priority action items in December, and the updated plan will reflect that. That's all I have tonight on the manager's report.
Thanks, Dave. We're supposed to adjourn next, but I'm going to just make a comment. We first did a comp plan in 2011. Largely, a big part of what we're doing, all this planning stuff, is an update to the comp plan. The comp plan was first done in 2011. What are we getting for that? Why are we doing it? If you look at this village from 2000, quality of services by anybody's measure. So we're talking about ISO, we're talking about CALIA, we're talking about metrics on performance and response times, both in public works and permitting. All up and improved, all of them. The quality and stability of the finances. This village was given the highest bond rating. It was affirmed 3 times in that period, and providing those services to every single resident, every single property taxpayer in the village. And you may recall that through COVID, the village didn't stop providing services. They were strong enough and able to continue to provide the services everybody expected through that disaster. That wasn't true everywhere else. That's part of what you're getting for it. Tax increases, operating tax increases to do all these things, to do all these enhancements, and to do all these quality services have increased at a rate in that window of time less than the cost of inflation. You're getting a better value today than you were in 2011. In fact, for 2 years, the last 2, we didn't even increase it at all. Find another community in that same role. And the result of all that at the end of the day is everybody's got increased property taxes. Downers Grove has had increased property taxes. Even when you live where I do and somebody's building right near you, you still have increased property taxes, likely at rates far beyond, I'm going to pick somebody that's not an immediate neighbor, Oswego. I can pick on them because Michael's not here. The truth is, and in the aggregate, any one of us can say, I don't like this thing in the moment in front of me. But this planning process that's going on, whether it's from 6-year-olds or 60-year-olds, is part of an update of a plan that, because that plan has been a guiding document for this group of people who manage the village and operate the village on a day-on-day basis, has provided real positive returns and improvements for every resident of the village. That's what we're doing. We're updating that. It won't be perfect. Last thing about data. I can't believe we're sitting worried about 5-year-olds contributing to the data set. Hopefully my family's not watching this, but I have a family member involved sort of in this world, and that person was at a meeting in another community where they were discussing parks. What should be done at a park? Big public meeting. Let's put your dots on the board. We'll put everybody's ideas. We'll put the stickers on the board. Adults came to that meeting, and the second most important idea that we should do for this, I don't know, Randall, not a big park. You know what it was? What do you think the second most popular thing the adults put up that they wanted was? A Ferris wheel, okay? Every piece of data that's received, the reason we have people that help us and professionals that help manage this stuff, accumulate it, aggregate it, and help direct what it means, help us interpret what it means, is because there's pieces all over the place. You can't take only the people, and you can't take only the people that are mad. You can't take only the people that have been here for 6 months and only the people that have been here for 60 years. We're going to take a ton of data, just like we did in 11 and again in 17. I think it was 17. We're doing the exact same thing again. The only difference is we're taking more of it. We're trying to get more input than we've ever gotten before. So I guess we can keep doing this every week. I don't like the data. I don't like what's going on. I just keep plan that's decided. That's a fact. That's why we're still having these meetings. That's why if you look at that list, it's not up anymore. We're talking about Q2 before this stuff is sorted out and implemented. There's a lot of road ahead of us, and we want people to participate. But please don't come just assuming the worst. That doesn't help anybody. Your village has performed really well for 2 decades for every person that lives here. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Mayor.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all, and good night.